The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. So we're back at it again for the last movie of the trilogy, and 4.5 hours later, it is official. I love this trilogy more than nearly anything else in movies. So we start the movie off by seeing Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. They are making their way through into Mordor, and it is very apparent that the weight of the ring is taking a big hold onto Frodo and is twisting his mind. Also, the closer he gets to Mordor, the more it weighs and has more power over him. Then on the other side, you actually see a coming together of Merry and Pippin and Legolas, Gimli, Gandalf, and Aragorn. They come together. They actually meet in Isengard when the group that were battling at Helm's Deep with the riders of Rohan ride to Isengard to confront Saruman and ask basically why he did it, what he was offered, that kind of thing. They want answers. They want to be able to defeat Sauron, and they think Saruman is the best person to ask for that. So they get a little bit of guidance from Saruman, not much, but they kind of realize that they need to go to Gondor in order to basically stave off Sauron's armies. They need to protect Gondor, and they basically need to, go figure, return the king to Gondor, who is Aragorn. So on that, Aragorn is probably the main focus. Him and Frodo are like the two main focuses of this movie, because while it's the return of the king, you could say that the return of the king is for Sauron coming back. You could also say it's for Aragorn making his way back to Gondor. So you see a lot, especially in the extended edition, the battle within Aragorn to basically accept his role as king, to understand that he might not want it, but it is his responsibility, and he is the best person for the job to lead the realm of men forward through this battle and after. So the character developments in the extended editions is definitely where they shine. You do not get the kind of character developments in the originals and the theatrical cut movies than you do in these extended editions, and it pays off so much. There is so much missing from the original. This is where I think it is so important to have these kinds of cuts, because for die-hard fans, for fans who really love it, who love these characters, who want to see more, 4.5 hours doesn't seem like that long. A running thing I've had throughout all of these trilogy reviews is just how stunning these movies look. And whilst I personally think this is probably the least good looking movie, as in there's not a lot of like panning shots around mountains and sweeping music and that kind of thing, they didn't have time for any of that. It was one of those things where they had so much to cover that they needed to get through it all, and so they didn't have a lot of time with that. But this movie still looks gorgeous. There are a couple of maybe small little outdated CGI moments, but most of the time, I mean, for a movie that's approaching 20, yeah, it's pretty damn good. I think with the extended editions and the ability to basically do a lot more character work, this movie is definitely the most emotional. It is supposed to wrap everything up, and because of all the character development that we've had, it pays off. The moments hit you hard. There were moments where I was in tears. There were such really satisfying moments that I couldn't help but being overjoyed by what I was seeing. So one of the big things that stood out for me on this watch of the trilogy was, and more specifically this movie, was the creature designs. It was incredibly amazing to see how these designs were so like real. But like you could see them being like that in real life. It was so well done. The castles, like Gondor is gorgeous. Helm's Deep is amazing. The just the way things are done in this movie look so beautiful. I do think, however, that there is a place where this movie suffers, and that's the ending. It's almost as if Peter Jackson didn't know where to end the story. There were about 4 different endings in this movie, and whilst they all had their own benefits, they all felt like an ending rather than a, okay, we're wrapping this up but we're still moving on with the movie. And rather it felt like, oh, we're wrapping up the movie here, it would fade to black, and then, oh no, something else is coming up. But that's literally like my only real gripe with the movie. Yeah, I don't really think there's much wrong with this trilogy just in general. I would be remiss not to mention probably my favorite little part in the movie. So obviously my favorite part of the whole trilogy is the Battle of Helm's Deep. But the one moment which for me is super powerful and amazing to watch is when Eowyn is battling the Witch King. She chops off the Nazgul's head, and then the Witch King gets off and he basically brings out his mace and his sword and he goes, no man can kill me. And she rips off her helmet and she says like, I am no man, stabs him in the face, and he just crumples up and shrivels and he just disappears and dies. It for me is so awesome. It is so satisfying to watch. It is, oh, I love it. I love that moment. I love that moment so much. Also, an honorable mention, a moment that makes me cry nearly every single time I watch it, is at the end when they are at, minor spoiler I guess, but the movie's pretty old, so if you don't know by now, I'm sorry. But when they are crowning Aragorn as King of Gondor, and he's going to meet Frodo and the hobbits, and they start to do their bow, and he holds them up and he goes, my friends, you don't bow to anyone and everyone bows to them. It is, again, that moment is so powerful. It is so amazing to watch, and you do not get the incredible emotion watching these little moments without the little things that you see in the extended editions. It is why I am such a champion that these should be the only versions of these movies. Overall, this is definitely the movie I get the most emotional with. It's the one with all the payoff, but it's not my favorite of the trilogy. I can confirm my favorite is still The Two Towers. Don't know why, it just is. I absolutely love that movie, slightly more than I do this. If I had to rank them, it would be 2, 3, 1. And the only real gripe I have with 3 is the ending. Whilst with 2, I don't really have a gripe so much. So with anything other than slightly dated, which is understandable. Watching this trilogy, the extended editions of it, is so satisfying and brings me so much joy. I cannot give that enough emphasis that I love these trilogies so much, and I want to own the whole extended edition trilogy on Blu-ray, 4K, whatever I can. I would, if I could, I would rent out a theater for a day and just say, we're playing all of these extended editions, and just have everyone come in and watch the spectacular amazingness that is the trilogy, the extended edition trilogy of Lord of the Rings. So guys, there we go. That's my review for Return of the King, the extended edition. What did you guys think? Have you seen it? Do you disagree with what I think? Let me know down in the comments. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys around.